In today's exploration, we dive into a fascinating chapter of Roman history, a period when Rome transformed from a modest city-state into a sprawling power that not only conquered lands, but also reinvented its society, economy, and culture. This era of foreign expansion is marked by dramatic changes that reshaped the everyday life of Romans. As vast territories were absorbed into the Republic, long-established traditions merged with new ideas and practices, creating a dynamic and at times turbulent tapestry of progress. We will uncover how large-scale slave plantations emerged to reshape agriculture, how the decline of the free peasantry altered rural life, and how the swelling of urban populations challenged Rome's traditional structures. Moreover, we will see the rise of a powerful business class, the equestrians, whose entrepreneurial spirit fueled Rome's economic evolution. At the same time, the influx of Greek art, literature, and philosophy brought an entirely fresh perspective that transformed education, language, and religion in Rome. This vibrant mix of challenges and innovations ultimately laid down the cornerstone for an imperial future. In our journey today, we will explore these multifaceted changes with clarity and creativity, shedding light on the human stories behind each transformation. By the end, you'll appreciate how a blend of ambition, hardship, and ingenuity propelled Rome into a period that continues to captivate our imaginations and influence our understanding of civilization. The period of Rome's expansion was a time of profound transformation, where traditional ways of life met new challenges. Society reorganized itself as agriculture shifted from small farms to vast slave-operated estates, disrupting the old balance between small landowners and the powerful elites. Economic activities diversified, stimulating trade and commerce while simultaneously fueling military ambitions. Rural landscapes evolved dramatically, and urban centers like Rome burgeoned with populations hungry for opportunity. One of the most striking transformations during this era was the rise of the slave plantation system. In a society defined by expansion, the traditional balance of homegrown labor was upset, as Rome increasingly depended on large latifundia. Vast estates worked primarily by slaves captured in relentless military campaigns. The seeds for this transformation were sown by several factors. First, the Roman system of managing public lands allowed wealthy citizens to claim and cultivate large tracts with little resistance. Second, the devastation wrought by wars, such as those against Hannibal, decimated rural communities in South Italy, leaving behind an open field for larger estates. Third, an abundant supply of prisoners of war ensured that slaves were cheap and plentiful, making labor costs almost negligible. As control of public lands gradually shifted into the hands of the powerful Senate, these estates grew, mingling public and private interests. The tools of exploitation were harsh. Slaves were often treated as mere instruments, worked in brutal conditions, and even confined in underground ergastula. These dynamic changes transformed the agricultural landscape into a market-driven industry, where profit reigned supreme and human cost was alarmingly disregarded. In effect, the slave plantation system not only redefined the production of food, but also set in motion an economic engine that would fuel Rome's ambitions for centuries. As vast estates became the norm, the traditional free peasantry suffered irreparable losses. Small farmers, who had once formed the backbone of the Roman agricultural economy, found themselves outcompeted by slave-run latifundia. With the state's military demands increasing and rural communities falling into disarray, many small landowners could not maintain their holdings or support their families. Compounded by the heavy burden of conscription, which pulled men away from their fields for long periods, the free peasantry experienced an existential crisis. Displaced and demoralized, their lands were often seized by wealthier landholders, while many were forced to migrate to urban centers in search of sustenance and employment. This shift not only reduced Rome's agricultural self-sufficiency, but also contributed to an urban demographic imbalance, where a burgeoning underclass of indebted farmers and veterans struggled to survive amid the relentless pace of city life. The steady decline of the free peasantry thus served as a warning signal, a harbinger of social tensions that would ripple across Rome for generations. The growth of slave plantations and the collapse of small-scale farming transformed the population landscape dramatically. As more citizens were forced to leave rural livelihoods behind, vast numbers poured into the city of Rome, swelling its streets with a new, restless urban proletariat. This segment of society, composed of impoverished ex-farmers, discharged soldiers, and itinerant laborers, became notorious for its volatility. Living in crowded conditions with scant access to food or basic services, this urban mass was highly sensitive to fluctuations in commodity prices and supply chain delays. Shortages or price hikes in grain, a staple for the common Roman, had the potential to spark explosive reactions, as desperate citizens banded together to voice their grievances in public assemblies and conchins. Thus, the urban proletariat not only embodied the direct human consequence of Rome's economic policies, but also played a significant role in the political dynamics of the Republic, capable of swaying or disrupting the delicate balance of Rome's civic life. Parallel to the seismic shifts in agriculture and rural demography was the emergence of a new power block within Roman society, the equestrian order. As senators were curiously restricted from engaging deeply in commercial ventures, a gap emerged that the enterprising business class eagerly filled. Originally, many of these men were part of the traditional cavalry, but as Rome's warfare evolved, so did the role of the equites, morphing into influential financiers, bankers, and public contractors. They were known as publicani, professionals who took charge of everything from tax collection to building major infrastructure projects. The rise of these economic players destabilized the long-standing hegemony of the senatorial aristocracy, creating a new rivalry that was felt throughout political and social spheres. Their wealth was built on unprecedented commercial success, and with it came political influence, as they increasingly backed policies that favored expansion and aggressive exploitation of conquered provinces. In this nascent capitalist spirit, the equestrians set the stage for modern commerce, blending ambition and ingenuity in ways that modern entrepreneurs might recognize, giving Rome a vibrant and competitive marketplace that redefined power and prestige. The newfound prosperity among Rome's elite brought with it an appetite for luxury that reshaped domestic life and public expectations. Homes that once featured simple, functional designs were upgraded to elaborate villas replete with Greek-inspired atriums, peristyles, and intricate sculptures acquired from far-off lands. Lavish banquets, dazzling silver plate, and an ever-growing retinue of personalized slaves transformed everyday living into a ceaseless showcase of opulence. This rapid leap toward luxury did not go unnoticed. Traditionalists, alarmed at the erosion of Roman simplicity, sought to counter these trends with strict sumptuary laws aimed at curbing excess. Figures like Cato the Elder vociferously decried luxury's corrosive effects on Roman virtue, advocating for limitations on everything from expensive attire to ostentatious feasts. Yet, these measures met with limited success, as the tide of extravagance proved too strong to be halted by legislation alone. In a society where success was measured by the spectacle of wealth, even laws enforced with stern determination were eventually abandoned. This shift towards a lavish lifestyle not only highlighted the widening gap between the rich and the poor, but also served as a precursor to the cultural and political challenges that would soon engulf the Republic. The Roman expansion into Greek territories unleashed a torrent of cultural influences that would forever change the Roman ethos. As Rome encountered the refined art, literature, and philosophy of the Greeks, it began a process of cultural assimilation that was both transformative and controversial. Greek art and sculpture, imbued with a sense of balance and beauty, found eager admirers in Rome, where they were reinterpreted to suit local tastes. The ideals of Greek philosophy, reason, ethics, and the pursuit of knowledge, appealed to a new generation of Romans who saw in them a blueprint for a more enlightened way of life. Yet this process was not one of simple imitation. It was a creative dialogue. Roman architects, writers, and statesmen absorbed Greek influences, while simultaneously infusing them with indigenous traditions, crafting a unique cultural synthesis that celebrated both conquest and the exchange of ideas. From political thought to aesthetic sensibilities, the Greek legacy permeated every layer of Roman life, leaving an indelible mark that resonated long after the dust of battle had settled. Education in Rome underwent a noticeable transformation during this period, shifting from a purely utilitarian approach to one that embraced the refined teachings of the Greek world. Wealthy families increasingly employed Greek tutors to instruct their children in literature, philosophy, and rhetoric. This reorientation of learning not only broadened the intellectual horizons of young Romans, but also introduced them to a new lexicon of ideas and artistic styles. The presence of Greek scholars in the homes of the elite helped establish the study of classic Greek works as a cornerstone of high culture, fostering a generation of citizens who were as comfortable discussing Homer's epics as they were debating local political issues. In this way, education became a bridge linking Rome's pragmatic past with a more cosmopolitan future, ensuring that Roman thought evolved in tandem with the expanding horizons of the Republic. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of Greek influence was the flowering of Roman literature, which began to take shape as a festive arena for creative expression. Initially, literary endeavors in Rome centered on translation and adaptation. Livius Andronicus, a freedman of Greek origin, pioneered the translation of Homer's Odyssey into Latin, introducing the rhythms and themes of epic poetry to Roman audiences. This early work set the stage for subsequent generations of writers who sought to craft works that resonated with distinctly Roman experiences. The realm of drama also witnessed significant innovation. Inspired by Greek New Comedy, playwrights such as Plautus began to stage lively comedies that incorporated humorous situations and memorable characters drawn from everyday Roman life. Terence followed suit, refining the formula with a more elegant and polished language that appealed to audiences seeking both laughter and a touch of sophistication. Beyond the stage, epic poetry emerged as a powerful medium for chronicling Rome's origins and triumphs. Ennius, hailed as the creator of Latin hexameter, wove together myth and history in sweeping narratives that celebrated the city's legendary beginnings. In the corridors of literature, satire found its own space, a bold and fearless commentary on the foibles of Roman society. Gaius Lucilius, one of the pioneers of this genre, used colloquial language and wit to shine a critical light on everything from public affairs to private indulgence. His satirical talks captured the contradictions of his time with a unique blend of humor and candor, making the genre a cherished vehicle for social commentary. Through poetry, prose, drama, and satire, Roman literature not only entertained but also captured the spirit of an era defined by both homage to the past and a restless, inventive drive toward the future. As Rome's political scene grew increasingly complex, oratory emerged as a crucial instrument for public debate and civic leadership. Speeches once delivered in humble settings began to be recorded and celebrated, setting a precedent for eloquence that would influence generations of statesmen. Figures like Cato demonstrated that powerful rhetoric could sway public opinion, while early jurists worked diligently to systematize legal principles into a coherent body of work. This combination of refined speech and systematic legal thought laid the groundwork for a sophisticated tradition of public service, one that prized both persuasive clarity and rigorous legal analysis. Together, oratory and juristic writings became twin pillars of Roman intellectual culture, shaping the democratic processes and legal frameworks that remain subjects of admiration even today. Religion in Rome experienced profound changes as the traditional Roman pantheon encountered the rich mythologies of Greece and the mystic practices of the Orient. The once impersonal deities of Rome increasingly took on human characteristics borrowed from Greek mythology, creating a more relatable and dramatic religious landscape. The city's temples filled with statues and art imported from conquered lands, while public festivals evolved into elaborate celebrations that combined athletic contests, theatrical performances, and sometimes brutal gladiatorial combats. These festivals were more than mere entertainment. They were expressions of civic identity and cultural pride, uniting the populace in a shared experience of dramatic pageantry and ritual fervor. Over time, the integration of Greek and Eastern elements gave rise to new cults and belief systems, broadening the scope of Roman spirituality and leaving an imprint on religious thought that would influence countless generations. As we reflect on the sweeping changes of this transformative era, it becomes clear that Rome's journey was one of audacious reinvention. The expansion that brought vast territories under its sway did more than extend its borders. It fundamentally reshaped the internal dynamics of Roman society. The rise of sprawling slave plantations, the erosion of the free peasantry, and the swelling of urban populations each played a role in redefining what it meant to be Roman. Equally important was the emergence of a new, ambitious business class that challenged the traditional senatorial order and sparked innovations that would propel Rome into the future. Culturally, the infusion of Greek thought and artistic elegance revolutionized education, literature, and religious practices, forging a style that was both cosmopolitan and distinctively Roman. Today, the legacy of these sweeping changes continues to inspire modern ideas about governance, commerce, and cultural synthesis. By understanding the multifaceted nature of Rome's social, economic, and cultural evolution, we gain a broader perspective on how historical forces shape societies. In this creative retelling, the intricate web of ambition, conflict, and innovation reminds us that even mighty civilizations are ever changing, built on the enduring spirit of reinvention and